Hey everybody, welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello, and today I want to talk to you about how belief is the first step. And this is another message to myself. I'm preaching to the choir. I know this stuff. At least I pride myself in learning a lot of this stuff, but I need to actually practice it more and pay more attention to it. And I'm just moving my cat because she's going to step on this keyboard that I have here. She's always in the way. And I've given up on locking her out of the room when I record these just because I let her do her thing. But as of the date of this recording, the 20th of May, 2020, I have read 3,159 pages, and I'm on track to read 8,200 pages by the end of the year. My goal is to read 8,000 pages. And I started tracking pages because I've mentioned this before also, that I was tired of counting books as the same, right? Because there could be a 300-page book and that counts as one book, or there could be a 120-page book and that counts as a book, and that's not really equal because it takes way more time to read the longer one than the other one. But in any case, I've read quite a few books already this year, and I keep ordering more and more. By the time I even finish reading, I've got a stack of books on my desk that I'm kind of reading through and switching through, every few days when I need to switch things up, in addition to the books on my shelf behind me. But I'm reading 0 to 1 right now by Peter Thiel. Great book. Highly recommend checking it out. Very interesting. And it says it's notes on startups or how to build the future. And there's something that really stood out to me. I usually put these little clips in my Instagram story when they stand out to me. And people often reach out like, hey, what book is that? And they'll find value in whatever I've highlighted and circled on my Instagram story. And I share these types of books with them. But here was one thing where it said, if you think something hard is impossible, you'll never even start trying to achieve it. Belief in secrets is an effective truth. Basically, belief is the first step. And then it says, the actual truth is that there are many more secrets left to find, but they will yield only to relentless searchers. So there's more to do in every single field, but we will never learn any of these secrets unless we demand to know them and force ourselves to look. This is like powerful stuff here, because so many people feel that, everything worth doing's been done. All the hard stuff's been taken. Every idea is already started, and all the low-hanging fruit seems to have been taken, right? But then you see something like fidget spinners that came out of nowhere. People made their money on that as well. And of course it was a fad. It came and went, but it was still an opportunity, right? So that really stood out to me, that belief is the first step, and that if we don't believe, if we think it's something hard as impossible, we'll never even try. So whatever it is that you want to do, belief is the first step. And I look at my vision board and I'm like, yeah, okay, Chris, it's kind of a big stretch looking at some of these goals. Let me turn my webcam. I look up at it and I can see a mansion, BMW, some Lamborghini, like house in Colorado, all these things that I've never had, obviously, and that are completely foreign to me at this time. And I have a 50-unit apartment complex up there. I've got pictures of rental homes. I have all these goals written down. I threw a private jet up there for good measure. I don't know if I want a jet. If I can afford it, sure. But I shouldn't ask myself, I can't afford that. I should say, how can I afford that? So I've got the right thinking. I've got the right mindset. While I'm not necessarily a materialistic person, I love the idea of being able to live that lifestyle and just do whatever I want, because I'm free financially and time free. But it's important to remember that belief is the first step. If you don't believe something's possible for you, why would you ever even try? And a podcast I was just listening to this morning, I've been listening to the Empire Show lately from Bedros Keuilian, and I definitely got to get Bedros on the show too. He's got a lot of value, and I love what he has to say. And he's kind of tied in with that circle of like Andy Frisella and Milet, Dan Fleischman, all those guys. And in this episode, the guy he was interviewing was saying how he wanted to open some kind of gym, some kind of self-defense gym, and he was working with his dad at the time. And when he told his then wife that, she was like, how are you going to do that? I guess in a condescending way, like she didn't believe. And he said that he knew right then and there that they were going to get divorced. And like within a year, they were divorced because she didn't have belief in him. and she didn't have that support in him. And he didn't go into a whole lot of details, so I'm not sure what the backstory was, if there was more than that to it. But you have to have that belief in yourself, and there's going to be people who doubt and who hate on you and don't think you can do it. And the best success is revenge, like you've heard before. So the best thing is to prove people wrong. I still see Facebook memories where 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I was posting motivational stuff, and I was starting to post some videos and starting to post my thoughts on various things and entrepreneurial ideas. And like 2 years ago, it'll show, oh, here's this podcast about how to start a startup, or here's this podcast on marketing funnels, that I was making these episodes, and like one person would like it, two people would like it, and the content wasn't the best. I'll admit it. It could use some work back then, and I've improved a lot since then. But I started taking action. I started doing things and putting content out, and the belief comes with hard work. The harder you work and the more you start to see momentum, you start to believe more that the things that you're working towards are possible. So now that I'm starting to interview larger guests, and it's becoming normal for me to just get big names on the show, and I'm not as afraid to ask. I send the emails out and I'm like, hey, I'd love to interview so-and-so. I've just interviewed blank, blank, and blank. You probably know them. They're all over the internet, and they're, millionaires. So now I believe it. And I'm like, why would you not want to be on my show? Because I've already interviewed these other guests. You don't want to be left behind, right? You want to share your message, sell your products. You should probably, click this booking link and get on my show. And the belief is starting to come now. And I still have the self-doubt when it comes to like wanting to try something new. Like a friend and I are talking about getting our first property and doing our first flip together. And I'm like, okay, I know how to find deals. I've done this stuff before. I'm a real estate agent. I've done some wholesaling with the company I was with before. But can I really do it? Am I going to lose money? Like, am I going to get burned on the deal? Am I going to accidentally make the wrong call and then we both lose money, or the house goes into foreclosure? You think about all these things that can go wrong, and it's scary. But then you think about what can go right, right? So if I never try, how will I ever know? The product that I talk about before as well, I don't know if you can really see it. I keep one on each side of my bookshelf behind me in the video. There's a 3D printed prototype, and then there's like an actual factory manufacturing floor prototype. And I spent a lot of time and money on that product. I've spoken about it before. It's literally on the shelf, on the back burner right now, because I'm focused on real estate in my podcast. I just sunk so much time and money into that, and it seemed like more money and time were the only answers to even figure out how to move forward on fixing the design flaws and then bringing it to market. So it's something that I'd like to pursue later, but right now I'm just not focusing on. And I posted about it. I tried it out. I did all these things, and I kind of failed at that, right? It's like it hasn't made money yet, but I'm happy that I at least tried, because if I had never tried that, it wouldn't be sitting on my shelf there. I wouldn't have that story to tell. I wouldn't have learned the challenges that come with that certain type of manufacturing. And now I'll be more cautious in the future whenever I'm designing a product, of working with a manufacturer more directly to make sure that the product we're designing is something that can actually be made in their warehouse. Because 3D printing, you can 3D print like almost anything, but to make it and mass manufacture it, it's a different process, and they've got different tooling and machinery. So anyway, I'm going kind of on a tangent there, and my cat is just sprawled all out on the desk and changing the colors of my reading light and stuff. So I apologize if you're watching that on YouTube. But belief is the first step. If you don't have belief, you're not going to take action. And it's hard. I'm teaching this to myself too. And I'm constantly asking people, how do you improve your belief in yourself? How do you eliminate the self-doubt? I know you just do it. You surround yourself with people who have done it, and they'll be able to kind of give you some guidance. Because at any point in time, successful bodybuilders, successful businessmen and women, CEOs, presidents, they were all babies that crapped in their diapers at one point, just like you and me. And you think about it, it's a funny thought. You think about someone you really respect and you kind of fear. You're like, oh my gosh, they have it together. Kind of graphic, TMI. But one time my mom told me, like, hey, whenever I was nervous to talk to a girl or whatever, she was like, hey, everyone gets diarrhea. Everyone's been in that place where they're just holed up in the bathroom and they're not feeling good. And that was like a funny sight, where she told me that years ago. And I kind of remember that, like, hey, a CEO, a president, Jeff Bezos, everyone's had that moment where they're just keeled over the toilet seat, not feeling too hot, and they're human. That's basically the takeaway, is that we're all human. And you look at, some people have accomplished some amazing, crazy feats. Hiking, Mount Everest, the dude who did free solo, who scaled that mountain without any ropes at all. Guy's crazy, but that was very impressive. Yeah, my palms were sweaty watching that on, I think maybe the flight to Bali last year is when I saw that crazy dude doing that. But there have been some amazing things and accomplishments, and it all started with belief and, of course, practice, right? The guy practiced a million times, a free solo guy. He did that cliff. He climbed it with ropes over and over again. He knew every nook and cranny, where to put his fingers, like how to dry off his hands or whatever. He knew that mountain like the back of his hand. And I don't know where that saying comes from, because I don't really know the back of my hand. I'm looking at it now like, oh, that's what it looks like. But he knew the mountain so well that when he took the ropes off, and yeah, the stakes are higher, but he was trained for it, prepared for it, and he believed that he could do it. And he was willing to literally die for it if it didn't work out. And my other friend, Juwan, he just posted this on his story too. He was talking about how if you have any doubt in your mind, like if you're just going half in, if you're just trying to dip your toe in the pool, you're not going to make it, because you're holding yourself back from the full potential you need to accomplish the goals. If you want to accomplish something, you have to go all in. You can't hold a little bit back, because that little bit back that you hold is what's going to prevent you from getting to that goal. So you've got to believe, go all in, run at it full force. Plan B distracts from the plan A. And I still struggle with this sometimes, because I just met with someone recently, and he's he's got like 2 jobs right now. He's working business development at a title company, and he's kind of running the show at a nice restaurant here in town. And I was thinking, like, man, it would be kind of nice to have that business development role, maybe some kind of real estate company, get a little bit of extra income and some steady paycheck while I'm building my real estate business, because that's still very much inconsistent. There's high months, there's low months, there's months where I'm like, oh man, this is so much work for such a little check at the end of the day when I pay my broker and my transaction coordinator and whatnot. How do I scale up? How do I grow? How do I make more with less time? All these questions that I ask myself. And I still have those questions of, what if I got a backup job just to get some income, get some benefits, have a little bit of stability? But then that seed of doubt in my mind, like, oh, I'm unemployable. I don't want to work for other people. I don't want to have to listen. If I get a bad boss that's a micromanager, I'm going to hate it. They're going to find out that I'm truly entrepreneurial and that I'm only there to moonlight, or whatever the term is, to pay for my entrepreneurial endeavors. Those are all the thoughts that go in my mind. And then I also think, like, well, if I get a job that distracts from my plan A, the plan B distracts from my plan A, right? But then again, maybe I'd have the peace of mind so that I don't have to worry about making ends meet if these deals don't close, or they fall through, or whatever the case is. So all those questions constantly in my mind, wondering, is this the right thing? But then there's a little voice in my mind after I listen to motivational videos that tells me, like, Chris, stop doubting yourself, stop playing small, stop having the self-doubt, and believe that you can do this. There are other people who have done it before you, who are not smarter than you. They're not working any harder than you. They've just done it longer than you. And that makes me feel better, because I've only had my license for almost a year now. And I've been in real estate just for 2 years. And a lot of people say they don't have their success until 3 to 5 years in, when they start to really hit the ground running, get the ball rolling, build that snowball momentum down the hill that turns into the avalanche that they need to make real change in their industry and market. So I'm that little snowball, and it's starting to gain momentum, and I'm starting to believe more and more, just through my actions and through the small wins that I'm accumulating over time. And I don't even know where I'm going with this. I just recorded another episode before this, so they're probably kind of bleeding into each other in terms of the content. But belief is the first step. And let me read that. Well, I forgot what page it was on, so I was going to read it back to you again. But basically, if you think something hard is impossible, you'll never try it. Align yourself with people who have accomplished the things that you want to do, as impossible as it may seem for you. And when you start to get around those people more and more, and you see, like, oh, wow, so-and-so didn't even go to college, or they barely graduated high school. They were a C student, and they're doing this crazy amount of business. Like, you don't need a good grades in school. You don't need the degree. I know one of the owners of the real estate company that I worked with before had this cool Porsche, and the license plate said C student. So I was like, that's cool. I would love to have that too. I mean, I was like a B and C student. I got a couple of D's in a few classes. I think I dropped those. I don't know if I'd want to get D student on a plates of a nice car, because it's kind of like, man, D's kind of low. C's like, okay, C, you made average grades in school, cool. B student, I'm not going to put A student because I don't associate with being an A student. School didn't come easily to me. But anyway, belief is the first step. If you're having self-doubt, align yourself with the people who've done it before. I know I've said the same thing 20 different ways in this episode, but that's honestly what I've learned over the past few years on this journey, is that you need to get around the right people who've done these things. If you're just hanging out with your friends and family who are doing the same corporate job and they don't know the path you're on, they don't know the work that you're doing, they may not even see the point. You need to get around the people who've done it, because they're going to be able to show you that there is a way, you're on the right path. Another example, I was recently at a real estate book club on a Saturday. And there's this one guy, for some reason, he's like super vocal. I can see him making a lot of enemies. He says a lot of things that like probably are controversial and would piss people off. And I mean, I can handle him. Like, very few people really upset me or anger me. But I mean, there are some people who kind of get under my skin a little bit. But this guy we were going around the circle talking about wins or things that we're working on. And one of the things I was saying was like, hey, I don't know how much time to spend on the podcast or how to best monetize it or what the next steps should be. And the guy after me was like, dude, I tried podcasts. It was a waste of time. Like, it just takes so long and I don't think it's worth it. I think they're dying. And I'm just like, dude, you sound so ignorant, because I didn't tell him this. I'm just thinking, I'll let him say it. And it did allow a little bit of doubt to creep in my mind, but I had to take it with a grain of salt and realize, like, this dude probably gave up after 2 episodes. His content probably sucked. I told you just now that he says things that piss people off and like push people away. So how would he attract and grow a passionate audience? And he's not me. He hasn't done this for almost 3 years straight. And he doesn't see the value. I was like, do you know who First Form is? Do you know who Andy Frisella is? He's like, no. I'm like, of course you don't. There were like 3 people in the room who were doing 75 hard and had their gallons of water. I'm like, dude, that is the power of freaking podcasts. And Andy never even runs ads on his show. He's grown it. I mean, they've got 18,000 plus 5-star reviews. It's a hugely downloaded podcast. And while he very rarely ever plugs his products or company, First Form, like, no doubt, if you love his content and you're a huge fan, you're going to be a freaking First Form fan. I was working out with a friend the other day who's done 75 hard. He's in our Arte Syndicate, in the accelerator. He even has an Arte tattoo on his forearm, the logo, because he was so passionate and he truly believes in what it means, like excellence and pursuing more and whatnot. And we were working out the other day and he was wearing a First Form short shirt. So he's about the products, he's a huge fan and he wants to support in some way. I do the same thing as well. I get a lot of value from impact theory from Tom Bilyeu. And I know that he was like one of the co-founders of Quest Bar, and I guess he still has some ownership or whatever. I know they got acquired, but I'm assuming that if I buy Quest products, it in some way, even if it's insignificant at this point to him, contributes to him and his cause. And that's my way of giving back. I found value in his message. I love his content. And I buy freaking Quest bars every time I go to the store. I buy like the cookies or the chocolate chip cookie dough bars. Those are my favorite. They're like low sugar or no sugar, high protein, that kind of thing. They want to make healthy ingredients and whatnot. And so I buy Quest bars now. And that's just an example of how through the value that I've gotten for free from his podcast and YouTube channel, same thing with Andy Frisella, I've gotten so much value from his show. Like I went to the Arte event in St. Louis last year, flew over there. I posted about it. I promoted it to my friends because I was like, this is awesome. And there's so many like-minded people. That is the value that you get from creating free content and free podcasts. So maybe I should send this last 3 minutes that I just talked about to that guy that I'm talking about to show him what the value of podcasts are. But again, pick your battles, right? Namaste, or namaste. Did I pronounce that right? Namaste. Namaste. I've been listening to a lot of meditation and guided meditation practices later. And that's always the best part at the end where you're like, namaste, because you just feel so zen and so at peace. I can let the world do its crazy thing and I'm unaffected. And again, I've never had crazy hardships. I understand. I've had a pretty good life. It hasn't been glamorous or fancy, but I haven't really struggled or anything. but I still feel just so at peace with the world right now because I believe that anything's possible to an extent. Like, I don't know if I can fly or anything, but I've gone skydiving. I've jumped out of the plane. I've guided my body through the sky like Buzz Lightyear, falling with style, right? And yeah, belief is the first step. And what else did I want to talk about here? There's one thing I wanted to mention. I was walking my dog earlier today, and I was just thinking about how crazy it is because I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about on this episode about belief being the first step. And I remember when I was a kid, it was storming outside. I wanted so badly. I was a fan of X-Men. I had just seen like the first X-Men movie with Storm and Wolverine. I think I was 12. I remember because I saw a PG-13 movie when I was 12, and I was like, oh my gosh. And of course, I was the first son, so I had all the crazy rules. My freaking little brother was watching rated R movies when he was like 10. My parents had just been like, whatever at that point. And we all turned out great. But anyway, I'm sorry I keep going off on these tangents, but I hope that you find it a little bit entertaining somewhat. As a kid, after watching X-Men, I wanted so badly to be able to have powers, to be able to control the weather and stuff like that. So when it'd be storming, instead of me being afraid of the weather, I would just envision myself of being like having powers like Storm, like I was controlling the lightning and the thunder. And I think that day, I don't know if it was me, maybe it was my mind. There was like a little tornado that touched down and like ripped off the wall or like hit the wall of the mall, and the Dillards was like damaged. So maybe that was me in my mind, but I'm not sure. But I really wanted to believe it so badly. And I think another time too, I had the thought as a kid, like I wanted to be psychic or have some kind of powers. And I remember like looking at a spoon and holding it. I think I remember this. Maybe it was a dream. I really have bad memory of my childhood for some reason. Like I don't remember anything past before like second grade for some reason. But I remember looking at a spoon super hard and trying to bend it with my mind. I know this sounds crazy, and some of you are probably like, huh, yeah, funny kid, weird kid. But I remember so badly wanting to be able to bend it with my mind, and I was trying so hard to focus on it, and it wasn't moving, nothing was happening. And I just got this flashback because I watched the first Matrix the other day where there's a scene where the girl like bends the spoon with her mind, but then she says, it's not the spoon that bends, it's your mind that bends, something like that. Just mind blown. But I believed so hard, and it was so frustrating when the spoon didn't bend, and when I learned that I couldn't control the weather and that I can't fly like Superman. You kind of have that sad feeling for a little bit where you're like, dang, it's not possible, or why did I ever believe that I could do it? You don't have any limits on your mind as a kid, but as we get older and life tells you how things work, and then you get a couple jobs, and then reality sets in, like, oh, I don't get 100 grand out of college. For most people, you get like 25, 30K starting salary, whatever the case is. And you've got a pile of student loan debt. You can't even get a high enough paying job to pay that down quickly, plus living expenses. And life starts to kind of kick you in the face a little bit. And you start to say, well, maybe that isn't possible for me. Maybe success isn't for me. Maybe I can't do it. And you got to ask yourself, are you truly putting in the work? Are you coming home at 5 o'clock and checking out and turning the TV on and just chilling? Or are you honestly learning, reading books, getting around people, masterminding, listening to the right podcasts like this one and Impact Theory and MFCEO Project and all those different podcasts that just get your mind right? Are you really truly trying to better yourself, and are you doing it over a long enough period of time? Because if you're not doing that, then of course you won't have belief, because you're not doing the work required to get the results that you want. So work plus belief. Anyway, I'm going to listen to this over again later. I'm going to be like, man, I said the same thing 10 different times, 10 different ways. But I hope you enjoyed it, because this really came off just off the top of my mind. I haven't even used any bullet points or anything today, just speaking extemporaneously off the cuff. And yeah, it was nice to kind of get that out, because I kind of got to vent about my frustration of not being able to bend the spoon or control the weather, especially when it rains. I don't like rain. I like the sun. If I could control the weather, it would be California sunny every day with 65, 70 degree temperatures. But instead of like 90 degrees or whatever it gets to in Houston with super high humidity. But with that being said, I hope everyone's doing well. Have a great rest of your day. Stay in touch. Make sure to like, subscribe this, share with a friend. Helps me out a ton to spread the reach and be able to get more awesome, amazing guests that you probably already listen to and follow yourself. Any guest recommendations, please also let me know, especially now that I'm hitting some of these heavy hitters. it may be a little more difficult for me to want to interview people that don't even have a website or any followers on Instagram. If you're starting and you're growing and you've got a cool story or something, yeah, I'd like to give you the spotlight. But I want to make sure that you're also well-spoken in that you can communicate the message effectively. Also helps on the editing side, so I don't have to constantly edit out ums and ahs and all those things. So if you guys are interested in sharing your story with my audience and you have a cool thing, product, business, and you've been doing it for more than like a year, let's say you've been at it for more than a year, that will tell me you're actually committed enough to stick with it long term, somewhat long term, because a year in today's age is like a long time. So connect with me. I'd love to set up more podcast interviews and share stories from my audience as well. So I'm not just interviewing the big heavy hitters. That's cool too, but I want to also be the people's person and share the up and coming talent. So yeah, love you guys. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later. I got to get some work done. Bye.